Hey, hey, hey! It's the first ever real estate marathon. I'm your host, Jazz Takhar.
All right, thank you so much for being together. I'm not sure if you've been catching the marathon. You're closing off the real story segment for anybody. There might be a lot of people who are watching and like, these two look familiar. Well, you got it right. They were on a podcast dubbed 3 Inspiring Women. There is a third partner. Shout out to Kathy. She's not joining us today, but I hope she's watching and listening. Big shout out to Kathy. But Grace, Lisa, thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Yeah, thanks for keeping us the best for last, Jazz. We really
Obviously, you know I got
joining you today.
Well, ladies, let's get right into it. I want to talk about, because you guys have done, it's very, one of the reasons I want to keep you till the end here is because not only are you investing into real estate, but you're using so many different strategies. You're using joint venture, you're investing into pre-construction, you looked at you've done student housing. You're kind of diversifying in so many different types of properties, but also strategies. And that is something that I think all of our marathoners and so many more need to listen to. And because of that podcast, you ladies have inspired so many men and women to take that first step. So let's get right into it. Why real estate for you two?
Well, I think it really started with Lisa and I are neighbors and really good friends. So we've been walking and talking for, probably about 15 years about what we want to do after. Both project managers, both been in the corporate world for way too many years, and decided as we retire, we wanted to do something totally different. And as we kept walking and talking, we came up with a whole bunch of different things. And then one weekend, I did just an intro course at one of the home shows and found that there's, courses on how to get into real estate. And so Lisa and I were talking about it during one of our conversations, thought this is something that we should really look at in terms of investing, educating ourselves. So, let's take these courses and make sure that we know what we're getting ourselves into before we do it. And this can be a long-term strategy. So, and our kids. We decided to embark and say, let's learn something totally new here and keep our minds sharp and learning.
Now, did you two find it a little bit easier because you were doing it together? I don't mean easier like from an investing perspective, but just kind of getting into it together.
The buddy rule always helps, right?
So true.
Right? Buddies as walkers, just bouncing ideas off of each other. It can also bring, periods where you agree to disagree, right? But okay too, because talking it through, you end up coming out with a much stronger end solution, right? That you've both bought into. So in some ways, yes, it's been easier, but it does have some challenges.
Well, there's more. There's just more cooks in the kitchen, right? And I mean that does definitely get difficult at times. But I think if you're and we're kind of speaking about joint ventures here, is that if your goals are aligned and or if you write it out at the beginning, then you're definitely going to be able to, in my opinion, get through it a little bit easier. Because if you say to each other, and I'm not sure what you guys did, and I would love for you to share, but if you put a joint venture agreement together and say, look, every 4 years we're going to have a conversation about what we're going to do in year 5. Is that how you ladies set it up?
Oh yeah. No, before we even started to buy our first property together, we looked at putting a joint venture agreement together in terms of how much cash flow, what we're going to buy, what we're going to put into it, how we're going to review it, who's going to be the main point of contact, who's going to do the spreadsheets. We did everything. We took everything and tried to include everything in it. At the end of the day, we've got a lawyer to review it, and the lawyer said, I cannot charge you for doing this because you've got everything in here. All I can do is
It was the project It was the project managers in you. It was the project managers in you.
yeah. And just to comment on Lisa, yeah, I think by having a partner, it keeps you honest and keeps you challenged. It's like, for me, it's like going to the gym. If I'm not accountable to somebody, and it's even with work and everything else, I mean, it keeps you sharp, it keeps you on your toes, because you can slip in terms of your timelines, right? I can do it tomorrow. But when you've got a partner that you're accountable to, you can't wait for tomorrow. It's got to be done when we say it's going to be done.
Now, when you did your first property, did you guys, because you're joint venture partners, did you guys say, okay, we're going to open up an account, 1, 2, 3 account, and put some funds in reserve? Like, how did you guys work that through?
Yeah. So we did exactly that. We opened up one bank account. We put some seed money in. So the seed money was really covering, right, the first mortgage payment. Because we didn't know what expenses we put in the seed money. And within the joint venture agreement, we actually spelled out that we would put in, any shortfall equally to cover any shortfalls initially, right? So absolutely, yeah.
Now, you mentioned the lawyer. We've done a couple of things together as well, but you've done stuff outside of our organization, which I'm so proud, and because I want to speak about that, because again, and I'm going to say it again, this is not some type of infomercial for REC. This is more of, look, we're all regular people, but the ones that actually take action are, in my opinion, the ones that clarify what and the why and not worry about the how, because that does appear. Who else was part of your team? Mention the lawyer. We know that we've done a couple of other things with each other. And who else was part of the team, ladies?
It's funny. So we talked about Kathy, our partner, too. I mean, Kathy has one property with us. So she has some of her other properties on her own. So we learn from Kathy as well, from our partners. So there are other people that are in the real estate world. My uncle was in the real estate world for years. And, it was him that prompted me to get into this as well. So you tap into, as you said, you know what? When you're in the investment world, we all like to keep in touch with everybody else, right? So you talk to these people to help you through this, right? I mean, we have our team of, a team of people, realtors, lawyers out there that help us through everything, property manager that helps us, fill properties as well. So I mean, those are the regular stuff, but it's also just working outside and understanding what other investors are doing and why they're doing things.
Now, you've also invested, because both of you, great job, Grace. Both of you live and reside here in Ontario, but you guys have invested outside of the province. Talk to us a little bit about that. Kind of, what were some of the concerns? Maybe what were some of the worries? And then what got you to come into that comfortable place where said, you know what, we're going to throw our hat over the fence and even invest outside of the province?
So that was a bit of a stomach turner for us, to be perfectly honest. We always said that we would buy in our own backyard. And then we got a deal, and it made sense. I mean, the numbers simply made sense. It was a pre-construction. We needed to wait a little bit, but for all the reasons that pre-constructions are, the right thing, the time horizon, the small deposits, incrementally, installments. And it was cash flowing. I mean, there was a bit of a leap of faith, right? Because it's our first one. You don't know what the rents will be in 2 or 3 years' time, right? So it's a bit of a leap of faith, but we had, some really strong folks on our team that sort of held our hand, and we pulled the trigger.
Well, and you mentioned it as well, like Lisa, that the numbers worked. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I get the question all the time. Just, should I invest if it's a 45-minute drive away from me? Should I invest only in my city, in my own province, in my own country? My answer to that is invest where the returns are best. Like wherever the returns are good, invest. Do you want to, me personally, want to kind of keep it closer to me? Yeah, sure. I mean, theoretically, I would love to. But at the end of the day, I care where the numbers work really well, and I know there's going to be long-term growth. I'm sure that was part of your decision making.
That was a very interesting night because it was our first one. I mean, Lisa and I stayed up to like 1 o'clock in the number, just doing the numbers. Like, there's cash flow, and we're like, no, but it's our first one. And then fear started setting up. No, back up with fear, and the numbers are working. Yeah. It just makes sense,
Less emotion and more just
factual, right?
Yeah.
Keep the emotion out of it. We're talking investing, right? Because if we were going to live in the property, totally different set of glasses, totally different perspective. But when you're investing, you want to invest where not only the returns are the best, but where you have the emotion out of it, right? Because sometimes you might invest into a home where necessarily the rooms are not the sizes that you would want them to be, or the kitchen is not set up the way that you would want to be. But because the location is so close to transit or to jobs or to whatever else adds a lot of people to the area, then I would advise you to strongly look at that type of property, because you know that you're going to get tenants over and over and over again.
We do the litmus test. Would we put our kids in it? Is it safe enough? Is it good enough for our kids? If it was good enough for our kids, we were golden, right? So that was kind of the test that we used.
I've gotten to know you ladies for a very long time now, and every single time I speak to you, it always comes back to your why. You don't say it necessarily every single time, but I know what it is. It is to create that generational wealth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that the strongest why? It was what we're going to provide for our kids.
Absolutely. But as part of that, there was even a dominoes effect to all of this as well that I didn't initially see when I first got into it. So it was to create generational wealth, but so Lisa's got 4 kids, I've got 3 kids, and 2 of my boys had just graduated, 3 years ago now when we first started. And so I started sharing everything that I've been doing with them, and they've jumped on the bandwagon. They have already bought pre-construction condos, and one of them will be closing soon, and the other one next year. And they're actually seeing the benefits of all of this, and they're like, thank you, Mom, for introducing me to it. I'm like, yes, all right, good.
And I happen to know both of the boys, and one of them is coming up with the closing that we're going to be renting out the property for them. And it's just nice to see, right? Because it's something you're not going to learn that in school. They're not going to learn. The questions I'm getting from one of your boys, you can ask any professor, they just won't know the answer. And just earlier at dinner, we played the Scott McGilvery podcast episode, and he mentioned it as well in that episode, and he talks about it on stage all the time, that he would go to his professor in university and speak to him about mortgages, and the professor would have a blank look at his face and say, get back to the books, Scotty. And what he did is he still wanted to learn more, and that's what he did. I want both of you, please, you've done so much already for me in outside of this marathon, but now inside of this marathon, but I need to ask you for something. I need both of you to speak to the investor that is scared, fearful, not ready, don't think they're ready, don't think this can ever happen for them, that it can't be real for them. Talk to them and how we can help them and maybe inspire them to take action.
It really goes back to a lot of what we've heard today and throughout our journey. It's educate yourself. Educate yourself. Keep an open mind and use a team of experts because you may not have all that information at your fingertips, but there are people that are experts and are willing to share that with you. And take the leap of faith. Again, numbers don't lie. So why would you be fearful? Just pull the trigger.
I love it. Grace?
And just to add to that, so fear is just false evidence appearing real, right? So put that all
Okay.
aside, right? There is nothing harmful that's going to happen. If you know the numbers, if you're educated, if you've got the right people around you, be positive, think positive, act positive, and positivity will come your way. If you want something badly enough or strongly enough, and you've got all the supporting stuff, it can only happen, right?
Yeah.
It has to happen because that's the only thing you're asking for. So be positive.
Like will always attract like. If you believe in it or not, it means nothing. It's like the law of gravity. It exists. Put it out. Law of attraction. You put it out there, your brain will start to find what you're looking for. I just picked up a brand new truck. I actually tinted the windows and did a little special thing with the rims, bought an extra rim package, did blacking out a certain section of it. I thought I was making it very, very custom, okay? And I never ever saw this truck before, and the way that I did it up. And within 2 days, I saw maybe 6 of the same truck. It's not that they weren't there before, it's because my brain was never looking for it. As my brain started to look for it, it started to appear. So if you believe in the law of attraction or not, it means nothing. It is. And it exists. Start putting the questions out there. Long before Google, we have something in our brain. It's called the RAS, the Reticular Activator System. Once it gets turned on, it starts to look for what the questions that you're putting out there. And so I love the fact that you went down the positivity route. I love the fact that you mentioned, Lisa, making sure that you pull the trigger, that ready, fire, aim in both of you. We had a question that came up that I actually wanted to pose to you guys, is that how did you go about building the team?
So I think initially it was going through and getting educated. So we took courses through Keyspire to get educated, okay? And we spent the money to educate ourselves. We said, you know what? This is important enough for us that, we'll spend the money on our children to get them educated, that this is something we want to do. We're going to spend the money on ourselves to get educated, okay? Nothing near what we spent on our children to get educated by no means, but it was important to us. And so we're important too, right? So once you start getting educated, you surround yourself by like minds, okay? Positive attraction, like minds. You start talking to people like yourself, Jazz, like Simeon, like Laura, and you start networking and you start building your team. And you don't stop there. You keep talking. You keep reaching out to people. You ask, do they know somebody that knows somebody that does something else? You go to seminars. You go to, outings that are specific for real estate so that you can start networking. It's all about your networking and keeping in touch with other people, right, Lisa?
So true.
Like minds again. It's the positivity. You've got to surround yourself by like minds.
And I love that you still keep that mindset, right, Grace and Lisa, where you guys are still learning. You're still growing your network. This is never ending.
I actually told my son yesterday that I don't know enough yet. I said, I'm just scratching the surface, buddy. Don't ask me a lot of questions because I'm not sure I have all the answers for you because I'm still learning, right? But I'll tell you what I know, and then you go out there and you find out some more and you share it back with me, okay? So the learning just never stops. It continues all the time.
Yeah, and that's part of the allure, right? It is, you're just constantly stretching yourself, right? You're meeting amazing people. Again, it's been quite the journey. We've enjoyed it, and we're going to continue.
It's funny what happens, right? As you continuously push yourself out of the comfort zone, as you extend, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you keep on trying to find, because everything that you want in life is right outside that comfort zone. So as you continuously stretch it, that starts to grow, and then you just get more into your life. Ladies, you've have added so much to my life and to so many others. I want to thank you once again, spending a part of your Saturday night with not only me, but with so many others tonight. I give you so much love virtually and digitally right now. I cannot wait to see you again. Yes, there you go, Gracie. There you go, Lisa. I love both of you. Yes, guys, please make sure that if you want to be put in touch with not only our the 3 Real Insiders that I brought, the 3 Real Story segments that I did, and anyone else of all of our service providers, all the guests, email us at info@reccanada.com. I can smell the finish line. Ladies, thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much, Jazz. We're honored to be on your podcast.
We love everything you do.
All the best.
Love you, love you, love you.